All right, so this is a teardown of a HO scale Rapido GP38. I had asked for an exploded diagram, got a message back saying I didn't need it. So we're already off to a good start. I did want to remove the cab to see how that works. These two little openings right there is where the light goes through for your truck lights. At least that's what I call them. Let me back up here just a little bit because I've done this kind of in reverse. So to remove this, it's got four little nubs that you go underneath. Probably see it better like that. That you go up underneath here and pop those loose. Be very careful of the steps. You will have to pop off the side rails. I did in these three spots. When you look at this, the stanchion is glued on, so I do not recommend trying to remove that. I started on top and it's still not pressed in, and I decided the best way was to go in through the back side of the step down here where it attaches and give it a little push, and it popped right out. One other important thing, having a little trouble getting it fit there, right there. There is a grab iron here. You'll have to remove it because as you try to slide up the cab assembly, it's going to hit. Okay, so it slid up a little bit for me, and then I was looking all over to see what was what here. Okay, so that's mainly it on that part. The part that's inside the cab is this assembly, and it can be taken out of the cab like I think most cabs do it this way. There's two little nubs on the side of that light green there. And if you carefully pry that away on both sides and pull it down, it'll come out. The biggest problem I have, because it's pretty solidly built, is your truck lights, kind of like where my thumb is, because I only have two hands, just floats there. You can see it on both sides. Let me set it down so I can point at it. Here and here. And the thing it loses a lot of points here is that just floats. When I first tested it on, this is a DC model. That's probably important to note because I'm not going with Loke sound. This will be a Soundtrack Tsunami 2 install. And if I can use any of this, fine. If not, I'm not going to lose any sleep. I just wanted to get everything apart, kind of see what I'm working with here. The fact that those float around, to me, is an issue. That should have a little place for it to sit. So when it comes down on here, then you know it's aligned. If I don't use what they've provided, that is exactly what I'm going to do, is just have the LED attached right here, have the wire come up. There we go. Because I plan on putting an LED under the second step here on the for the step lights on all four sides. The tooling looks really good. I mean, the paint on it's really good. All right, let's move on to the center. It's got good weight. Pretty impressed by the weight. I have no idea what I'm getting into until I get the parts, because there'll be a decoder. It'll be like the Atlas type. I forget the number. The 2 amp, basically PCB board. All this will be removed. If you take these 4 screws out, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. The back section, I've had this apart, but it's not a big deal going through. You got your dummy plug on there, the board comes back. This is where you would undo it. This is just your rear track pickup. They all come with a pair of speakers. They don't look as big as the cube speakers that Soundtrack has, and I do believe when this is removed that they can be, because you can see the one is long-wise, I believe I can rotate that and get 3 in there. This whole board will be removed when I move ahead. At this point, yeah, it's underneath it. Underneath this board, you've got, let's see, 1, 2, light pipes for your LEDs. So the LED is mounted on the bottom of the board, firing down, and then it turns and comes out here to light up the number boards. And what I've seen on the DC so far, it looks good. And then there's going to be another pair, and that's this little tiny opening here and on the other side for your class lights. And then I'm probably not going to mess with it. They've got a long clear piece light pipe that comes down here and out, and that's what's going to light the bottom center part of the walkway here. And they've pretty much done the same kind of deal on the front. So it's kind of stacked plastic pieces here. So this is going to be for your class lights as well, and this is going to be for your front walkboard. It's in the center. Not sure what I'm going to do with that yet, because my other ones don't have it. Doesn't mean I couldn't do it. The way they've got this is, I just don't know how much of that I can reuse. I haven't got into the breakdown of electronics. I'd have to start measuring what comes out of what. So you probably can guess already that this top part with its little connectors there come down onto this plate. I've had this all apart. It's just glued in place, and there's 2 screws under there. There's a screw under here. There's a screw under the dummy plug, and then the whole board will lift up. You've got to take the Kapton tape off. They've routed this on purpose in a very tight configured way, so when the shell goes on, there's not going to be interference. In fact, I need to adjust that wire. It's sticking out a little bit more than it should. Let me pull it back through. That way everything's nice and clean when it goes back together. Like I said, if I go through the electronics and I'm like, this is more trouble than it's worth, then I will take that off there and do it my own way. So far, that's what we've got. The speakers are not wired. They have 2 little spring connectors on them. much like this, but much smaller. And they just make contact with the bottom side of the PCB. I guess it's just cheaper for them to throw those in there. They're quite tiny. I'm not very impressed. And you can see straight through this, so getting sound out shouldn't be an option or problem. Because underneath it, it just has a very small opening. Not much in, I'd say a 1/4 by a 1/4 square that goes through it. I may have mentioned that's your keep alive circuit. There's something here that wasn't plugged in, but everything's back the way it was. I'm just getting ready to put it back together. To pull it apart, it's your typical coupler boxes just come out. Just be real careful. A lot of these are that way. The cut lever is going to get in the way. So I typically take an X-Acto as I'm pressing it in and put it between that and the coupler to slide it back together. But that gives you a good idea where to start. Like I said, there's three handrails. And then again, and you want to be very careful because you got your firecracker antenna on top and your horns and your shades. You don't want to bust that. But the first thing I'll probably end up doing here is sliding the inside back in. I hadn't mentioned, but I've seen it through the window. The stand does have at least 2 lights inside it. And if you look on the bottom there, you can see all that copper wire. And there's a few that are going up inside, very close to, try to get my fingernail over there, very close to my fingernail. You see a hole with 2 wires going up in there. So there's 2 LEDs in there. Like I said, the biggest thing, I mean, it's solid. It's built solid. And if I'm going to change it out, I may have to mill just a little bit of the metal off to get the height I need between the decoder and the current keeper. But it's solid. It's got a nice good heavy weight to it for its size. I've got the MTH CSX, and those are really heavy. There's a lot of metal, but this I just don't have as much length. So until I need to get some kind of putty or something I can put in there, so when I press everything together and pull it apart, I know exactly how much room I've got. Right now, this is just very preliminary, and I just wanted to throw something together. If you have any questions, please ask. At this point, I'm thinking, and I could be wrong, but like I said, I'm not going with Loc Sound, and that's what they're kind of set up to do, is they want you to take the dummy plug off and put on a Loc Sound, and that's just not going to happen. I used to like Loc Sound a long time ago, but when Tsunami came along, it just completely blew them out of the water. So there's going to be a lot going on back here anyway with the speakers and all. So I got to stack the decoder and then a current keeper. I will not do an install without a current keeper. Now I'm spoiled. And this one holds up pretty good. I mean, I turned the power off, and the headlights and the number board stayed on for probably a good 30 seconds. It didn't have much time to charge. I just ran it on the track for a couple seconds. But pretty solid model. But I gotta say, these LEDs, I'm gonna line it up before I put it back together. But that is just, they really should have some little something that holds that in place. Those screws just hold on the PCB board, and that's pretty much it. It's fairly basic. I don't think you're getting to those LEDs in the stack without snapping the stack off, and it's glued on. Personally, I don't know if I'm going to mess with that. I just want the truck lights, which is what we see here. And if they stay like that, fine. If I put them my own directly onto the body here, because I will, like I said, I run a series wire all the way around to each where the step light would be. Very, very thin. I think it's 32 gauge. I have to look that back up, but probably have to get some more because I don't have much of it. It's very, very thin, and sometimes I even have to Dremel a very small channel so the wire doesn't get pinched or stripped when I put it back together. Anyway, I hope this helps, because I was very curious how this thing was put together. First impressions, I am impressed. Between the weight and what they offer for the general consumer is good. The thing I don't like is how these companies are basically forcing you to, it's like a monopoly for the sound, and I don't like that. Don't like that at all. So between that and the truck lights, that's my two major gripes.